For days, Blair Adams believed someone was coming for him. He emptied his bank account, gathered his gold and valuables, and suddenly left Canada. He crossed borders, changed plans, and headed thousands of miles south. But why was a man with no known ties to Tennessee running for his life? He had left Canada without telling his family or friends where he was going. Then he flew to Washington, D.C., rented a car, and drove toward Knoxville, Tennessee. Along the way, something went wrong. He locked himself out of the rental car, but that was only the beginning of the strange chain of events. The next morning, Adams was found dead at a motel under construction in Knoxville. Strangely, he had rented a room the night before, but investigators believed he never entered it. His valuables and money were still there. So who was he running from and why? But the scene raised even more questions. Adams had traveled thousands of miles, yet investigators found no obvious reason for his trip. His money and valuables were still with him, so robbery didn't appear to be the motive. If no one wanted his money, then what was he running from? But the deeper investigators looked, the stranger the story became. Adams had not simply arrived in Knoxville by chance. He had left Canada without telling family or friends, flown to Washington, D.C., rented a car, and driven south. Then, after locking himself out of that car, he was dropped at a motel by a tow truck driver. He rented a room, but investigators believed he never even entered it. The next morning, July 11, 1996, Adams was found dead at a motel under construction near Crosswood Boulevard in Knox County. He was only 32 years old. Yet, something about the scene made the case even more puzzling. His money and valuables had not been taken. Investigators, therefore, did not believe robbery was the motive, and Adams apparently knew no one in the area. Police still had no clear explanation for why he had left Canada, or why Knoxville had become his destination. Then investigators began looking backward. What had happened to Adams before he crossed the border? Why had he suddenly left home? And most importantly, was Adams actually running from someone, or was he running from something only he knew about? Investigators now tried to understand what had happened before Adams ever reached Tennessee. The official case file confirmed that he had left Canada without warning his family or friends. He had flown from Seattle to Washington, D.C. on July 10, 1996, rented a vehicle, and driven toward Knoxville. But there was still no known reason for the journey. Then came another strange detail. After locking himself out of the rental car at a BP station, Adams arranged for a tow truck. The driver took him to the Fairfield Inn for the night. Adams rented a room, but investigators believe he never entered it. Instead, somehow, he ended up at a motel that was still under construction. The following morning, at approximately 7:13 a.m. on July 11, 1996, Adams was found dead. He was only 32, and yet there was no obvious explanation for why he had been there. He had traveled from Canada to Tennessee without telling anyone where he was going. He knew no one in the area. His money and valuables were still with him, meaning robbery did not appear to be the motive. For investigators, one question became more important than everything else. What had Blair Adams been so afraid of before his death? Because if he really believed someone was following him, who was that person? By this point, investigators were left with a case full of contradictions. Adams had traveled from Canada to Tennessee without telling family or friends where he was going. He apparently knew no one in the area, yet somehow ended up at a motel under construction where he was found dead the next morning. His money and valuables were still with him, so robbery did not appear to be the motive. Investigators retraced his final movements, but the trail seemed to disappear between the motel where he had rented a room and the construction site where his body was discovered. There was another problem. Why Knoxville? Nothing in the official case information explains why Adams chose Tennessee, where he was headed, or what he intended to do after arriving. And because Adams had left Canada without warning, detectives were forced to look beyond Knoxville. They needed to know what had happened in the days before his journey. Was there someone Adams was trying to escape? Was he meeting someone? Or had his trip been triggered by something investigators had not yet discovered? More than 2 decades later, those questions remain unanswered. The strangest part was still waiting in the evidence surrounding his final hours. Because the man who had traveled thousands of miles seemed to have left behind almost no explanation for why he came. Then investigators reached a point where the facts became more important than the theories. Adams had crossed the border, traveled thousands of miles and ended up in Knoxville, but the official case file still could not establish why he came there or where he intended to go. The Knox County Sheriff's Office continues to classify his death as an unsolved homicide. There was no obvious robbery motive. His money and valuables were not missing. Investigators also found that he apparently knew no one in the Knoxville area. His rented room at the Fairfield Inn was another strange piece of the puzzle because authorities believe he never entered it. So what happened between the moment he was dropped off and the morning he was found dead? That remains one of the central, unanswered questions. For years, investigators have tried to understand Adams's final movements. His story was eventually featured on Unsolved Mysteries, bringing the case to a much wider audience. But there was no definitive answer, no confirmed killer, no clear motive, and no proven explanation for why Blair Adams left Canada in the first place. Then comes the most important part of the mystery. Was Adams really being followed, as the popular theory suggests, or was something completely different happening in his life? And if someone really was after him, why did they follow him all the way to Tennessee? After years of investigation, one thing became clear. There was no confirmed answer to the mystery. The Knox County Sheriff's Office still lists Robert Dennis Blair Adams's 1996 death as an unsolved homicide. His reason for leaving Canada, his destination, and what happened during his final hours remain unknown. Investigators know that Adams arrived in Knoxville on July 10, 1996. After locking himself out of his rental car, a tow truck driver took him to the Fairfield Inn, where he rented a room, but authorities believe he never entered it. The following morning, he was found dead at a motel under construction nearby. His money and valuables were still with him, so robbery did not appear to be the motive, and investigators found no known connection between Adams and anyone in the Knoxville area. The story became so mysterious that it was eventually featured on Unsolved Mysteries. But the most important question remains unanswered. Who was Blair Adams trying to get away from? Maybe someone really was following him. Maybe his fears had another explanation. Or perhaps the answer was hidden in something he knew, but never had the chance to tell anyone. And that is where the mystery ends, with no killer, no motive, and no explanation for why he came to Knoxville. More than 2 decades have passed since Blair Adams was found dead in Knoxville, yet the case remains officially unsolved. The Knox County Sheriff's Office still lists his death as an unsolved homicide and continues to seek information. We know the timeline. Adams left Canada without telling family or friends, traveled to the United States, drove toward Knoxville, and was eventually dropped at the Fairfield Inn after locking himself out of his rental car. He rented a room, but investigators believe he never entered it. The next morning, July 11, 1996, he was found dead at a motel under construction. His money and valuables were still there, so robbery did not appear to be the motive. Investigators also had no known explanation for why he came to Knoxville or where he intended to go. The case was later featured on Unsolved Mysteries, but the mystery remained. So, was Blair Adams really running from someone? We don't know. Was someone waiting for him in Tennessee? We don't know. And perhaps the most haunting question is the simplest. What made a 32-year-old man leave everything behind, cross a border, and travel thousands of miles only to die in a place where, according to investigators, he appeared to know no one? Today, there is still no confirmed killer, no established motive, and no definitive explanation. Blair Adams left behind a mystery that remains unsolved,